kitchen and dining room. When you think of spring, what do you think about? I know Mandy thinks about English peas, asparagus, sugar snap peas, spring onions, but me, I think about lamb. Today we're gonna roast some lamb, we're gonna make some gratin potatoes, nice little bit of veggies, and some jus. All right, let's get started. The thing we're gonna do here is we're going to get it cleaned up. So every little scrap of meat that's on the outside of this cap, I'm gonna remove. So we're gonna clean this fat cap away, and we're gonna get down to the rack of lamb. On the back side of this rack, there's a lot of fat. You can pretty much just pull it away. Now you don't want to over clean this, unless you do. Some people like no fat on their lamb. I am not one of those people. So we've got the cap off, and you can see all of this makes a great stew. We're gonna use it to make a sauce. All right, so now we've got our fat cap removed. We've got our uncleaned rack of lamb. I'm gonna put this over to the side, and then we're just gonna take away all of the lean meat and put it aside. Waiting for the pot to heat up. We're gonna go ahead and clean the bones on this rack of lamb. Now, you'll see there's, in the fat, a little dot, and it's on each side. I'm gonna use that, I'm gonna line them up. I'm gonna take my knife right at the top of that dot. Now, if I was using wood fire, I probably wouldn't clean any of this off. But since I'm using the oven, I'm gonna, as they call it, French at the bones. So connected those two lines. Get down in between. Put it on, and that's going to make a dotted line on the other side. So flip it over, you can see the dotted line. So now I'm just going to take that knife, I'm going to follow that dotted line along. All right. So now, as you can see the underside here, I'm going to take the tip of my knife and I'm going to put it underneath the silver skin here. And I'm going to run it all the way down the bone to the line. Now, fingers in between there. Sometimes, if you need the aid of the back of a chef's knife, you can take the chef's knife and just kind of push them down. But we really don't need to even do that because these are going to come off real nice. All right, once you're all the way down to your dotted line, very nice, clean lamb bones. Just a little bit of a scrape. Got that lovely little Frenched rack. Nice and hot. And take that. That fat's all right. Skim that off there. Put that in, let it start to melt. So I don't know if you noticed, but while I was over here going off about not over cleaning the lamb, I over cleaned the lamb. Typically, I don't bother with tying a rack of lamb, but in this case, I am going to. This has given me a great opportunity to season under the cap. Put some salt under there, right? Rosemary under there too. A little pepper, why not? And a touch of olive oil. What a happy mistake. As you can see, starting to get a lot of fat in here. And as I'm rendering that fat, it's beginning to create bond here as well. And I'm starting to brown this meat. And that's gonna make the color, and that's gonna make a lot of flavor and the sweetness. All right, so we've got a lot of fat rendered there. I'm gonna go ahead and just put in all the rest of this trim, that little piece of cartilage. That's gonna do good stuff for us. Back on the stove. Wow, it's starting to really smell good in here. So Mandy asked me off camera, why am I putting this piece of fat back onto the lamb? Typically, whenever I'm taking off that cap, I always make sure that this stays here. And the reason is when the fat starts to melt, it gets hot and it melts into this lean meat. And that's where all the flavor is. So, a step that I wasn't gonna do, that some people just do anyway. I'm gonna just go ahead and tie this cap back on. And we're gonna be able to keep the shape a lot better this way. And some people do this no matter. And with this, you're just gonna render and render and render until you have all this nicely brown meat scrap. I'm gonna show you where we're at here. This we call the fond. The fond equals flavor. So that's all beautifully brown. And when we were talking about spring onions, I have the tops to all of these beautiful spring onions. I'm gonna whack that right in the pan there. Go ahead and saute that out a little bit. All right. And that's what it's supposed to look like. See all that? I wish you could smell it. So the next thing we're going to do to make our little sauce is we're going to add some wine. You always have to make sure that the wine is good enough to cook with. Loving little deglaze. Now I'm going to let that wine reduce away until it's almost entirely gone. Almost all of that wine is reduced out. That chicken stock is going to go in. And then I'm just going to top this off so where everything is covered with a little bit of water. I'm going to bring it up to a boil. I'm going to clean it off a little bit, drop it down to a simmer, let it do its thing for a couple hours. We've cleaned the lamb. We've started the sauce. We just smashed and chopped some garlic back there. We're going to get ready to make potatoes. I'm going to slice these potatoes pretty thick, and I'm not going to put them in water at all. I want to keep all that beautiful potato starch. Watch your fingers when you do this. Oh. Let's see. To go a little tiny bit thicker than that. And it's okay if you get a couple of different thicknesses in there, as long as the potato gets fully cooked. It's the most important thing. So, you remember the garlic that we smashed and chopped? This dish likes a lot of garlic. And this dish likes a lot of salt. And this dish likes a lot of cream. That's about a cup, right? So that's a cup, yeah? And this dish likes a little nutmeg. So I'm gonna try to get in here and make everything basically flat. Pop this into my non-convection oven at about 450 degrees for about 20 minutes. And we'll check and see how it's doing. Craton's in the oven, sauce is bubbling away. We've just made our parsley crust, white breadcrumbs, and parsley. You can put a smashed clove of garlic in there, a little bit of salt, and we're going to start our veg prep. While I'm cleaning these peas, I'm going to start to blanch my asparagus. So my water's boiling furiously, and I have a pretty deep pot with a lot of water. So you want, when I drop these in, I don't want them to be all jammed together. I want them to spread out nicely and do their thing. Ice water always to shock the green vegetables. We stop them from cooking and we preserve the green color. Asparagus are blanched and out of the water. Peas are cleaned. Let's Start to think about these lovely spring onions here. I'm gonna take a couple of the smallest ones that I have. I'm gonna put those in the pot last. I'm gonna drop a little bit more salt into my blanch water to blanch my spring onions. I'm gonna treat those in the same way that I treated the other green vegetables. Those onions are blanched. Going into cooler. You can see here that the cream has started to run down and gratin on the sheet pan. So that means that it's boiling inside, the starch has started to really act with the cream, everything's cooking, things are still real nice and loose. But as the cream penetrates the potato, the starch releases and it becomes more thick. Once these potatoes are fully cooked, I'm gonna take the top off and then we're gonna give some heat to this thing. I'm gonna put it in a really hot pan. I'm gonna put it in a really hot oven. We're gonna baste it, and that, for me, is the best way to cook the raccoon. A lot of salt, olive oil. There is an issue of shrinking when you sear meat hot. And that's another reason that I like this piece to be cold, because I'm always going to be working with, on one hand, if I sear it too hard, it's gonna shrink up. Or if I don't sear it enough, it's gonna be flabby, right? So we wanna find that perfect point in the middle where it's nice and caramelized and sealed up. Lamb it that side down. It's already kind of doing its thing a little bit there. And this is how we know, right? Slides in real nice and easy. Oh yeah. So uncovered, turn the heat back up on the oven. We're gonna go back up to 400 degrees and put it back in until it browns over. Like really nice hot sear going on here. You can tell by all the sizzling and all the smoke. When you see this piece of fat that I tied back on, it's getting nice and brown and it's rendering like crazy. But then if you look here, this is still cold. And that's exactly what I want. So I'm gonna dump this fat out right there. Now I'm going to start to brown on other sides. I'm going to brown the bottom just a little bit. And then I'm going to turn it, I'm going to sear, I'm going to get everything nice and caramelized. Seared the lamb all the way around, but then you've got this little bit right here by the ribs. And I like to give some pretty serious attention there. Because that's where the radiant heat is going to push through on the backside and cook this thing evenly. And that's one of my favorite parts to eat. Right there next to the bone with all that fat. So delicious if it's cooked the right way. You go ahead and drop in way more butter than you would ever want to see someone put in. But don't worry, you're not going to be eating all that butter. Some rosemary in this case. Typically I would use thyme, but you know, shutdown economy and global pandemic and all, I couldn't get thyme, so rosemary will have to do. I'll smash that garlic a little bit in the skin, just throw that right in there, and that's just for aromatic sake. Back on the fire. So I paid most of the special attention to basting underneath the bone and then on top where that nice little string of fat. And that's where all this hot, bubbly, seasoned brown butter is doing most of its work. We've got these onions that we blanched earlier. Just a little bit of olive oil. And just a little bit of salt. let them grill. Lovely little grilled onions. They were fully cooked when we put them in the pan, but now we have all that nice grilled flavor, color. I put a little bit of Maldon salt on the top of them while they were cooking. Getting close to the magic hour. Since the lamb has been cooking, we've rendered out quite a bit of that fat cap. You see again, all that. We can get rid of that. I don't want to get rid of all the little bits, all the little things that stuck to the pan. Our gratin's out of the oven. We are going to drop our vegetables in boiling water and glaze them with butter very soon. First, let's go ahead and take the ties off this lamb. Dijon mustard. Parsley crust. So while the lamb's broiling away, we're gonna go ahead and drop the vegetables into hot water just long enough to heat them up, then into a pan with a little nub of butter, a little bit of salt, let it get hot. For a nice sauce, you have to strain it, and then strain it, and then strain it again. Our jus is where it needs to be. I'm going to add in some fresh mint, and a little bit of chamomile. We'll let that just hang out and steep. Well, I think that looks pretty good. I'm Matt Templeton, and I'll see you soon.